Hello and welcome to another episode of Constant State Podcast. Here today we have my co-host Mike Baker and a special guest, Samantha Ziegel. Samantha is a top voice for AI on LinkedIn, and she's going to help us talk about some more AI concepts to piggyback off of our recent episode with Drew Taylor. So Samantha, would you like to say a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, Tyler, Mike, thanks so much for inviting me on. Really like the work you're doing on the podcast, and I really enjoyed watching your recent episodes with Drew and Megan around digital strategy and AI. So lots of good content coming. So a little background on me. I have a bit of a mixed background in terms of career and personal interests. So I've worked in IT and software implementation for over a decade. So that's been my focus recently. I play a role right now as a platform and data lead for our Salesforce practice, focusing primarily on what they call data cloud and AI, primarily, and working with our delivery teams and sales teams to enable them in understanding what's happening in the landscape, what are the capabilities, what are the trends, what's the thought leadership. And then I often marry that up with my healthcare background. So before diving into IT, I started off in patient care, working in home care operations, marketing and sales, and then pivoting into IT. So a lot of my industry background comes in the healthcare space. So it's been really interesting to watch over the last couple of years what's been happening with generative AI, and really excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, thanks for joining, Samantha. So, what about your work specifically with Salesforce has kind of let you explore some things in the industry with AI?
Yeah. So I've been a part of our Salesforce business unit for the past about 4 years now. And Salesforce is doing some really incredible work when it comes to AI and being on the front lines. Believe it or not, they've been doing AI work and research since 2014, really ramping up around 2016. So some of their more on the predictive side capabilities have been around for quite some time. There just hasn't been a lot of hype around it. It kind of gets overshadowed in the business intelligence or BI space, but it's been there for quite some time. They have a whole team dedicated to AI research, in fact. And over the last year or so, since ChatGPT launched in November of 22 and kind of changed the world's perception on what is the possible, Salesforce has been pouring a lot of resources into building responsible generative AI capabilities and enhanced predictive capabilities in their system, and delivering that to sales and customer service and marketing teams. So what I've been doing on our team is diving into what is possible. How does it play into our current customer business goals and use cases? What does the roadmap look like in terms of where are we at now with AI? What's going to happen in the near future? What's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years? You know, it's just really kind of a bit of a black box, and every day is different. And then what I focus on a lot is enabling our sales team and delivery teams to understand what does it look like now in terms of available capabilities, and how to safely fold that into solution components on a project delivery team.
Yeah, it's funny, like talking about the integration with platforms and using AI and those kind of things, and like everybody's starting to catch on to AI, like in general, the general public of people. And I guess a topic of conversation that happens to me quite often is friends, family, people that I know they'll come to me and be like, "Hey, AI, like, is it great? Like, how do we use it, or what is it, or is that something that only that you use, or is it like for people that are just in like tech industry and kind of thing?" And like, I don't think people outside of like maybe certain industries really have a good feel for like how it will affect them or how it is going forward. That it's still like a mystery for lots of folks out there. Hey, how do I use it? Like, what? It's just a thing that I just input some text and get something back. It doesn't make any sense. And it's like one of those things, like, how do you explain AI to someone that has no idea? Like, I always constantly get asked this question, like, well, is it going to take my job away? Is it going to do this? Like many questions, and people kind of scared, and also looking for that knowledge of like how to like leverage it, I guess, is the topic of conversation that often, I kind of get in conversations that family members, parties, those kinds of things with people. And it's just interesting to see like perception from the public view, like how AI will affect them or what they think about it. I'm not sure if
Yeah.
like that's something that all of us, right? Like you go to a party and automatically, since I work in tech, like, hey, let me talk to you about AI. And it's like, well, I mean, everybody should understand it or maybe look into it. I mean, it's just not tech oriented, I feel like, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. It can definitely feel like a black box, right? Remember when cloud came out as a new capability and you can't see it or touch it or feel it. And what is
Right.
this? We have this vision of like this cloud floating above our computers, and you can't really understand what it is tangibly behind the scenes. I asked a network administrator to physically walk me to the server room and show me what the servers look like so I could
Right.
understand what was driving all of this cloud capabilities, because it didn't make sense to me, and I really like to understand how the cogwheels work. So I think it's the same concept when it comes to AI or new innovative technology. Is we have to educate people on what it is, how it exists today, because it's been around for a hot minute, right? Siri is
Right.
not new. Alexa is not new. Those are all AI driven capabilities. And then how can it enable their day-to-day lives or their work lives safely? And then how can they get on the wave and make sure they're moving with the current instead of against it?
Yeah, I think a lot of the fear comes from lack of control. So, like you mentioned, like Google Home and Alexa and things like that, it's still a device that people think that they have control over, right? Like they feel like it's only going to operate, even though it obviously operates behind the scenes. It's only going to operate, after we activate it with our voice. It's only going to do its job when we want it to. you know you mentioned earlier predictive modeling and stuff like that. I think some of that fear is of, am I going to be silently marketed to by some robot somewhere, and like it's just gonna like learn all of my habits, and so there's a lot of fear there, even though in a lot of ways that's already being done, right? It's already being done. Like your browsing behavior, your the things that you're buying online, like all of this stuff is still, is being used to market to you. So like it's now just allowing for those businesses to be a little bit more, have more pinpoint accuracy of things that might interest you. And so that's why people should lean into it, because it's just going to be, those ads that you see on social media that don't have any relevance to you whatsoever. You may not see those anymore because AI is probably going to get it more accurate than, someone who's just configuring different algorithms themselves.
Yeah. Right. Like I should be able to log on to my Walmart app where I order our groceries. And 90% of our grocery list is the same. So just pre populate those things for me, cut down on that time, and give me some hours back in my life.
Yeah, that would ideally, right? I mean, that's how it would work with the advantage of it. But I mean, it does sort of do that for us now to an extent. I mean, look at like Amazon, like, hey, would you like to buy this or don't you like this? Or, like sometimes like I use the Google app a lot to do searching on the phone or look for things. And whatever I search for, the next thing you know, I have like ads for like a million different kinds of variations of the same thing I searched for. So that all, like you said, like that's all existed for the longest time. But with AI is becoming more forefront, I guess more mainstream, like we're talking about here. And it's like, I guess one of the question I kind of posed earlier is like, to like normal people, how do you describe that? It's not like you get in a car and you drive it kind of thing. It's like, how do you interface with the AI, and like, how does it look like for someone going forward is like a really challenging question to answer. How does it change what the future looks like for all of us, really, right?
Yeah, and it's really difficult to break it down at a, umbrella level because different models are maintained and set up in different ways, right? I'm no
Right.
tech AI model expert, and I won't try to act like one, though. A lot of these foundational models are being built in the US. So when you're accessing them from countries like India or China or Russia or wherever, your cultural considerations are not necessarily represented in the data, and
Right.
that can impact your outputs. So even just understanding how to break it down at a granular level, you have to bring in cultural and geographic and socioeconomic considerations as well. But just high level, I would probably, just thinking out loud here, explain AI as this tool that can augment decision making. And this is obviously very, very simplified, but you can take an entire set of encyclopedias and you can ask it a question and it can go find it and come back with an answer within milliseconds without you having to go through that encyclopedia. So it's today, it can do that in your email, your text messages. It can go through all the documents on your computer and find the right information you need in moments instead of hours or minutes or days, or maybe you just can't find it because it's on an external hardware somewhere and it doesn't have access to it. So real simply, AI can augment your workflows and decision making based on the data that it has access to. But it's really important to understand what tool has access to what, how old its training data is, right? Like OpenAI, I don't know the recent data set, how old it is, but it used to be 6 to 9 months old. And most people don't know that.
Yeah, I don't think I knew that. I mean, that's new to me. I didn't know it was that even that relevant.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really excited for it to be real time so I can ask
Hmm.
it, what's happening now, in the news, because I don't like to watch the news, summarize what's happening and put a positive spin on it, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned something about data driven decision making and AI being super helpful with that. And I see organizations uh, that that being kind of what allows them to lean into utilizing AI more is, everyone talks about like, hey, we need to make our decisions based on the data. What are our customers doing? What are they buying? And we have all these tools to determine what that stuff, or to determine those metrics and make decisions off of those. And what you're saying is like we have the ability now to get that so much quicker because AI is going to be able to go through all these documents, all these reports with all this data that we get back from whatever system that we use, and it's going to make real-time suggestions once it gets to that point. And so that if we're talking about adoption of these AI tools, that's kind of, that speaks dollars and cents at that point. You're not paying an entire staff to go through these reports and come up with these models. You're going to have staff that will want to do that, but they're going to actually work with AI to get that out to you faster, so the folks that are making those decisions can make those decisions quicker.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of the idea is that AI allows you to have more time to innovate, right? Humans have this incredibly powerful mind, so much of it that we don't have access to yet, right? To turn on. But instead of working on these mundane tasks, like going through taxes, right, for a customer, years and years and years, AI can complete that process in minutes or, several prompts instead of a human doing it. And that human can do more human intensive tasks, right? That human in the loop, more critical decision making. No matter their education level, they can be leveraged at a higher level of operation and let AI do those menial tasks. So people are afraid of AI taking jobs. Yes, it will take your job if you don't move with the current, right? Let's figure out how you can work with AI in your role instead of trying to work against it or work, completely away from it. Because it can augment you as a person, as a contributor on the team, as a leader. I mean, you name it.
Yeah. I kind of agree with you there. Like the scared part is what people, the fear is what drives people away from it, or thinking that it's going to just change the world and no one's going to have any place to work any, going forward. But really, um, leveraging AI and learn how to use it makes you that 10x of a person that could do even that much more and be more valuable. Right. So there is like that. It is worthwhile to get out there and understand it and learn it and kind of sort out how you could leverage it to like work with what you do kind of thing.
Yeah, It's really difficult to do, though. I mean, I'm even kind of working through the process right now and figuring out what within the realm of AI, what space do I want to focus on? What's important to me? What's my passion area? How does it marry up with my background in healthcare, empowering working parents? What makes sense? Because you can't be wide and deep, right? And wide is great for AI. So those generalists, I think, are going to excel when it comes to AI in the future. But you can't also be deep. So kind of creating your own little knowledge area within AI as it moves forward will be interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Probably
Yeah,
a
and
go
to
ahead.
also talk about the like creative process, we're, we want to be able to use our brains for the creative stuff. We want to be able to do those things. We want to free up our time to do those things. So to lean on what you're saying, Samantha, looking at things for generative AI, like AI art, you have Copilot Designer, you have Stable Diffusion, you have Midjourney, you have all these different um, things that will generate an image in seconds just based on a written prompt. And I don't have anything against those, because they seem to provide a lot of entertainment, but they can also be used to pass as like genuine art, and to steal concepts from real artists and stuff like that. So as long as those things are not diminishing the appreciation that we have for real artists, I, I think it's something that we should embrace. Look at it from the perspective of a small business, or you have a mom and pop shop where they don't have the ability to hire a graphic designer, or they don't have the ability to even outsource a logo creation or something like that, but they want to be able to bring in their customers right away if they can, to grow, and then eventually get that hire that real artist, that sort of thing. We have so many different tools at our disposal now that they'd be able to, like, hey, something that we sell shoes, we want to have a logo of some shoes, and we want it to look this way with this background, and seconds later they have something that's workable. And I think that there's a lot of beauty in that, as long as it doesn't detract from the things that we want to do as creatives.
Yeah, there's a lot of good nuggets in there that we could probably talk about for hours. So we have a really good friend who's in Florida, and he is a very well recognized tattoo artist. He's actually done most of my husband's tattoos. My husband's a Marine, and he's got a sleeve, and I mean, you name it. And he actually uses Midjourney for some of his ideas. So he's been working with Midjourney to have it understand his style and his type of artistic drawing. He does everything freehand. So he doesn't just glue on a picture that Midjourney made, but he gives it some ideas based on the person's asks and personalities. And then it comes up, Midjourney spits out some ideas. He might even upload a sample previous tattoo he's done, and say, instead of doing a snake here, let's do an ape. And he's cutting down that time that it takes him to innovate and create. But he's working with AI to deliver his products. So he's a great example where he is accepting AI in his workspace and he's using it in a meaningful way. He's not necessarily, diminishing his ability to be creative, because that is just proven frontwards and backwards. But it can be used for good in the space. And it can, and like you said, Tyler, like people who don't have access to pay for a graphic designer now have access to do that. My husband made a golf outing flyer, and I showed him how to use ChatGPT to come up with ideas and create graphics, and he was just mind blown. Where before he was scouring Google search result images to try to figure out how to build this thing, and he did it in about 20 minutes.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
that's a good point that you're making, is that just right now, kind of explaining to like a normal person, like, how do you leverage it, right? And these are perfect examples of how you could use this to help do something, useful in your day to day. And, for example, like you said, the search like on Google, like I find that's one of the biggest things that I really use it for, is getting information quickly and replacing, unfortunately for Google, right? I replace it with something else now. Or now they have their integration with Gemini, which kind of takes over that search part. But you know, a lot of these things are probably going to be indiscreet. They're going to enter for everyone in a way they're not going to realize it, but it's going to be there. You're using it already. You just don't realize it, you know? And I feel like that's what the fear is for most people. They just don't understand like that transition to like AI kind of world.
Yeah, I try to avoid watching the news as much as possible. It's, you know, there's a lot of fear mongering happening
Yeah,
from
same here.
individuals who don't know anything about the technology, but you know, they're paid to drive traffic, and fear drives traffic, unfortunately. So a lot of what I am passionate about right now is just helping to educate people and giving people access to go play with a tool in an AI tool. Like, this is not this much of a black box. So giving my husband, a Marine who's, you know, from a small town, like, go use AI for this. And he's like, I got to thank it for what it did for me. So it doesn't get mad at me like the
Yeah.
Terminator. But giving him that tool really made it less of a black box for him. And I
Hmm.
think just giving people access and education is step one. It's not the answer, but it's step one for understanding it.
Yeah. Hopefully that's some of what we're doing here, right? Is like spreading that word around to people. AI is very clickbait, but it is something that people should pay attention to and really understand. So there is not fear, and understand that it's for the better and it's not for the worse here, you know, for all of us.
Yeah. In a previous episode, we likened the dawn of all things AI to the advent of the IDE for software development or programming, and so in like the realm of data, was there anything else that in its history that was just like so like astronomical, mind blowing, that you can kind of equate to what AI is doing to the industry now?
I'm no data expert. I played some with data solutioning, though
Yeah.
I'd have to think about that one, Tyler. I think that
We're
the
making the next
concept of
Skynet here.
cloud and the concept of cloud, right? Like, you still have, like, for healthcare, you have still a lot of organizations with on-prem servers and solutions. That's slowly going away, but is still very prominent. So you have on-prem solutions and you have cloud repositories, right? And then you have stuff, people with not floppy disks, but external hard drives or things on their computers. So AI helps us build a system to bring all of that data together into one spot and figure it out. That's what essentially Data Cloud with Salesforce is doing, is taking all these disparate systems within an organization's ecosystem and pull them in together into one spot to better understand the customer, all of their actions, all of their behaviors, recent purchases from different point of sale system, right? If you look at a multi-hospital healthcare system, think about all those little places where you can put a credit card in, or all of those interaction points, whether it's in the hospital pharmacy when you're leaving, or the follow-up doctor's visit. You have all of these points, and they're not all using the same software or point of sale systems. They're typically separate if they're, you know, purchased through an acquisition or what have you. So Data Cloud is working to harmonize all of those data sources, and then AI can take all of that and create actionable insights through all of those activities in real time, or it can be batched up if it's delayed. You don't need that data in real time. It's just a summary view of what's happening with Mrs. Johnson and her hip replacement. So I'm seeing a lot of really, really cool activity there from Salesforce, which is, I think, unique. But in terms of revolution around data, I'd have to give it a little bit more thought.
Guess one of the questions that we asked on our previous episode with Drew, Tom and I were kind of trying to get out of Drew, and I mean, probably the same question for you is that with AI, right? It's all about going forward. It's going to be about somebody making a lot of money, and with all the services now that are out there that kind of charge some money, is there any that you prefer that you feel is worth the value, or is still too like premature to really pay for something at this time?
I paid $20 a month for ChatGPT. I have for a long time. And
Hmm.
I mean, almost since it was available, and it's completely worth it. I
Yeah.
mean, I just used it before this call. We just moved to a house that is near a wooded area, and my dog went nuts yesterday chased a rabbit into the woods. We haven't had time to put up a fence or an electric fence. Apparently, he came back with a tick on him because earlier I was on a conference call and I found a tick in my hair. I've never had one in my life, and I was luckily I was off camera, so kind of freaked out and took it off. And I took a picture of it on my phone. I put it on a Post-it note, took a picture, and I asked ChatGPT, "What is this? Is it a deer tick? Do I need to be worried about Rocky Mountain fever? Or, what's happening in my backyard?" And it was able to spit back a response. I double checked it on the Illinois Department of Public Health website, and it was right, and told me what it would look like if it would have bitten me, maybe where my dog got it when he went outside, dogs are often the most likely carriers when they bring it inside, and then how to check for them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool that you get some kind of information like that. That's could be urgent, right? Like that could be very helpful that you can get very quickly. And some of those things I actually don't even realize a lot of times though with the chat GPT, and you have like the application you can put on the phone and you can integrate your camera and do stuff with it. And for example, in my downstairs area of my house, we have like a big family room. And I took a picture and I was like, hey, I want to redecorate my room to make it like 70s modernish, kind of colorful like that. And like, just give me some examples. And it was funny how it spit out all these kind of examples of my picture redecorated like in these different inspiration kind of things, right? And you don't think about to use it in that way, but it's really good at stuff like that, like just like you kind of stated with your friend that does tattoos, like I feel like the inspiration that you get from it is half the battle sometimes of getting started doing something, and a good way to like really find a way. Hey, I want to start, but how do I start? And this might be one of those tools that really helps that.
Yeah, it's really good at a lot of kind of generalist tasks, right? Those
Right.
things that don't really that really shouldn't take up a lot of space in our brain, but they just do, right? Well, will this look good in my room? Or even on my phone, like I have a Google Pixel and I can remove something from a picture. And so we're doing some updates to this house we just moved in, and I'm able to send a picture of my kitchen and remove some things like the light fixtures we don't necessarily like from that using AI. So it does a lot of really meaningful things. You just need to figure out what's going to work for you. What do you need it for? And then think about does the tool have the information it needs to give me a response that's valid? Meaning,
Right.
like OpenAI, right, and ChatGPT used to be based off of like Reddit forums. It didn't have a nicer training model like it's evolved into now. And the responses weren't all very accurate. It might have sounded like it was surely confident in its response, but you still need to figure out if the response it gives is right for you and right for the use case that you're trying to tackle.
Definitely. That brings up a good point. Just because it's AI and just because AI, is able to process things in ways that we're not able to, doesn't mean that it's going to give you 100% truthful information.
Right.
So you need to definitely cross-reference, double check. And even, you run the same question through ChatGPT, you may get a different response that's more accurate. And so like it's continually improving its, knowledge and its, ability to process the information. I'm going to nerd out for a second. You mentioned something about the Google Pixel and being able to like, remove something from an image using their like magic eraser tool and stuff like that. Just talking about like things like computational photography, you have, something that you're capturing from a camera today. Even still, like you do have some sort of computational stuff like that will be able to, you have some like image stabilization type stuff that's, helping computationally. But like with mirrorless camera technology and full frame camera technology now, there's a drive to incorporate AI into the process by which an image, even within the camera, is able to like remove defects, or it does like some retouching and stuff like that. Now, a lot of photographers like myself don't want to, don't really want to lean into that too hard because it kind of takes away from the skill that is needed in order to get a good quality photograph. But looking at things like Photoshop with their generative fill, looking at Lightroom and like the ability to have AI presets where you have, you put in a photograph and it's like, oh wow, this lighting is not great. It's, as far as like fixing lighting and white balance, that's been around for a long time, but now it's like, hey, I want to bring out this specific tone, and I want to be able to soften this person's face. So when, like, click of a button, and you would get some really good quality results. That, that level of detail, from something that's, where AI is helping, is another example of, photographers can work with AI to make things better. It's not going to take anything away from the person being in the right place in the right time to capture that still. But ultimately, to get the best quality picture that's, just going to be kind of jaw dropping, utilize the help of AI for that. Sorry, just had to nerd out there for a moment. You
Yeah.
mentioned you use the word photo, and I'm gonna like find something to talk about. So
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I'm just speculating here, but like the speed of innovation is just wild in AI. That's why you need like a really kind of a village around you to understand it, what's happening, what's going on. There's no way you can keep pace with it. You need AI to understand AI, but most of AI is not real time. So we're not quite there yet, but you really need a team to figure out what is the art of the possible today. What are the updates that came this week versus last week? It's tough to keep up with, but where I think is going to be interesting, and where it's probably pushing humans to go is this like a different level of operating, right? So if you really are an amazing photographer, I know you do video stuff too, Tyler, like you can elevate your skill level X volume higher. But if you're just a generalist photographer taking pictures of your food in your kitchen, you're still going to do great for what you are trying to deliver or what traffic you're trying to drive. But those people who are truly passionate and skilled in the area and have the eye for certain shots and backgrounds and different, and understanding how weather and sun comes into play, right? You, I think, will be elevated to just completely different level because of what AI can do.
Yeah.
absolutely,
As more, I mean, I guess the topic we're kind of pushing to here in this conversation really is that it's not the fear of AI. It's really like the leverage and like enhancement, right? It's going to enhance things for everyone to make your life easier, maybe give you some time back in your day kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it would be interesting to watch the virtual assistant background, virtual assistant industry. They're extremely important, especially when it comes to empowering working moms. A lot of the moms take care of the majority of household grind, whether it's mental or physical, and the virtual assistants can really empower you to have more time back in your day. And those right now are physical people sitting at a desk, typically, whether it's overseas or US based, locally here. They add so much value, though a lot of those decision making and task based decisions could be offboarded to AI. So maybe where virtual assistants could go is more like your virtual, health therapist or your virtual sounding board assistant. So it's kind of like that elevated level of operations could happen. I hope that a virtual assistant human never fully goes away, because there's still value in that human in the loop concept. Mistakes, AI will definitely continue to make mistakes, but hopefully that all of the areas in the professional working world can be elevated.
yeah. I had to have a doctor's appointment today, and one of the things that came to mind whenever I was scheduling a follow up appointment was I had to go to this desk, wait in line, and I had to wait for my turn. So to speak with a person, so that person could look at the computer and look at a schedule, and come up with a day that works for both the doctor and myself, and you know knowing that that computer already holds the information for the doctor's schedule, and all that was really needed for that interaction was my availability. And so the it could have been a completely contact free interaction. It could have been 100% like a kiosk that says like, hey, based on your your doctor's availability, these are the times that are available. Do any of these work for you? And I could click a button and it could schedule that appointment, and I would have no interaction with that person. Now, to your point, we don't want all of those interactions to go away. There's it's super important for us to have that human interaction. But for, healthcare providers where, they need to have those processes sped up, I could see it truly benefiting them in very, in many ways, because that person that was having to do those, scheduling appointments and stuff like that is now freed up to do a lot of the other work that they also have to do, that they a lot of times have, need a lot of help with. And so I see, areas for a lot of improvement there with the help of AI.
Yeah, that is something that's been on my mind lately. AI in the realm of healthcare seems like people perceive it to be oil and water, though it doesn't need to be, and there's no reason for it. I think that healthcare is one of the industries that can be most greatly empowered if we infuse AI in a responsible, intelligent, safe manner. Especially taking away all of, we have so much staff burnout. Nurses are leaving the industry at a wild rate, as well as physicians. The majority of physicians are nearing retirement age. Younger physicians are deciding it's not the space for them. It's not what they expected. And COVID really kind of set us down a different path there. So we're seeing a lot of staff burnout and turnover and retention issues. And some of that can be altered or improved by workflow augmentation. Just like you said, Tyler, I have a lady at the desk. She's got 3 patients standing in line in front of her while she's on the phone with you, trying to schedule an appointment. And you've got a complicated schedule. So does the doctor. And she's got to remember the buffer times between all of the appointments if her system doesn't do it automatically. So why can't it just say, hey, this appointment's for Samantha's daughter. She commonly comes in over the last 3 years of going here between 2:30 and 4:30. She has never come in at any other time. So why not just outright suggest those times for the staff member without having to make, Sally or Joe, who's at the front desk, try to guess.
Yeah, valid point there. That is very true, right? Like a lot of us people, by habit, you do the same things. Similarly, I do the same with like appointments for the doctor. I need it at this time of the day. It suits my schedule. Like, why do I have to ask every time for like the same Monday, 6 months away kind of thing?
Yeah, or even
that predictive kind of thing would be helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely leans more on the predictive side, I believe. And there's some patients who are going to just take longer, right? So that hour-long default appointment time for shortness of breath, maybe needs to be an hour and a half with Mrs. Johnson. She's just a talker. She's got multiple comorbidities, lots of issues. She's older, maybe wants to have a quick chat. Schedule out that extra time. Don't put that extra pressure on the staff, and make sure that, she's taken care of.
This Miss Johnson that you keep talking about has a lot going on.
She's complicated. Yeah, it's just a persona I use frequently and when it comes to healthcare.
Nice. Very cool. All right. Well, thank you, Samantha. We've talked about a lot of different stuff today. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us in regards to AI?
No, thanks for having me. I'd encourage everyone to dive into it if you haven't already. Spend the $20 to use ChatGPT. That's probably the easiest platform to get started. Understand what it's trained on. You can ask it questions. It'll tell you what it's trained on. And when you're using it, just be responsible and safe. Don't put in any of your personal data. If you work with clients, don't put your client data.
Like checking account numbers, they don't go in there?
No, phone number, address. It doesn't need any of that information. You can turn some of that feedback off. But it's good to know, who you're playing with on the playground before you get out there. But this isn't going away. It's here. It's going to stay. There's lots of amazing things happening. So get on the wave and do it safely.
Yeah, and for all the businesses that are listening right now, your competitors are using it, so you better start using it.
Yep. It's all part of that staying constant and continue to learn all the way.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.